my friends. It's Nanny from Nanny and the Moose. And today's topic is one that you've heard an awful lot about. We're going to talk about the reversal of aging, woohoo, and also longevity, but we're going to talk about it in simple terms. Now, my take on this is I want to live a life as long as I can, but I want to live a worthwhile life, and that involves a lot of things. I've been watching an awful lot of podcasts that really can explain a lot of this in very scientific ways. However, for the layman to understand what we have to do to partake in some of this is a little difficult. And I've tried to assimilate it in my head, and I'm going to pass this on to you. What do we have to do? When do we have to start? And what does it involve to reverse aging and to live as long as we can? So if you think you might be interested in joining me today, stick around. I would love it if you stayed. Not too recently, everyone came to a new conclusion about the connection between the mind and the body. They thought they were two completely different things that worked on different realms, but they have discovered that your cognitive mind is very much related to your physical body, and what you do in the way of exercise and diet and socializing and everything affects the mind and the body at the same time. So knowing this, let's proceed from there. Now, as most of you know, I am 84 and a half. I'm in my 85th year. As you can imagine, both Moose and I do think, probably more so me, I think about the future a lot. Mortality, yes, because I think that's also something you have to prepare for. I am very spiritual, and I have always, all my life, from the time I was a little girl, always been very concerned with the fact that someday I want to be in heaven with God in eternal happiness. Now, I know a lot of you have different beliefs, but if you believe that, you want to prepare for that. And everyone does that in a different way. I once had a priest tell me when I asked him, how can I make sure that I can go to heaven someday, Father? He was a high school friend of mine who did become a priest. I said, I've always thought about that and worried, not really big worries, but little ones, that I would do that or that I wouldn't, maybe. And his words to me were, and this was at our 50th high school reunion, by the way, and Father Bill, said to me, Mary Ellen, if you're that concerned with it, and you always have been, then you'll go to heaven. Well, I thought that was great. I know there's a lot of other things involved with it. What he was trying to say is that when you have a goal, something you want to do, a lifetime goal, or some place you want to be, you hopefully would live your life the way that you think you would have to in order to get there. And I hope I have most of the time. So, if you have decided, and you've made up your mind now, that you want to extend your life as long as you can, but you want to do it in a worthwhile way. There's some things we have to talk about, and you have to get your cognitive brain ready for this. So we're going to start with something called mindfulness. Now, you've heard a lot about that term, but there are some principles to it, and I'm just going to give you some of these principles and try and break it down to the point where it can be a little easier for you to understand. Now, I've written a lot of this down so I don't get it wrong, but mindfulness is described in this way. And there are seven principles of mindfulness. And they are concerning yourself now. Non-judging. That means you don't judge yourself. Number 2, you have to have some sort of patience. Number 3, you have to remain open and curious about things. Anything. Everything. Number 4, you have to have trust in yourself, basic trust, that you make the right decisions, trust in your feelings and what you're sensing at any particular time. Number 5, non-striving. Now that one, I thought, what the heck is non-striving? And when I looked that up, it meant basically not trying too hard to do something or to think about something. In other words, do your best, but don't go overboard, which I thought was kind of good. Trying less. Basically, it's acceptance and coming to terms with something. Number 7 is letting go. Now, when you add 2 more of these things to what they're calling principles, they call these attitudes, and these are very, very basic, and they are basically gratitude and generosity. Now, we've heard a lot of that. So maybe if you want to think about yourself in these terms, what of these principles are you pretty much in tune with yourself, and which ones do you have to work on? So this is getting ready to prepare yourself. Now, when you think of living a longer life, obviously you think of your health. So those are some other things that's another list of different areas of your life that you're going to work on or think about. Now, we're going to save that list for a little while. We're just going to work on the mindfulness first. So after going over the previous list and all the principles of mindfulness and examining your own self and where you are in relationship to the principles, I'm going to give you some qualities that people who practice mindfulness or who are mindful of their senses and their feelings, these are some of the qualities that they have. And you think about it and think about yourself as I'm saying these, as to whether or not you feel you have all or some of these qualities. All right, number 1, happiness. People who practice mindfulness and practice a lot of these principles are happy. They have a sense of peacefulness and serenity. They don't stress too much. They've learned how to handle their stress. They're not self-centered. A lot of what they think about and do are for other people, and they're not worried about themselves. They're loving and they're compassionate. Those are important ones. They're patient and understanding. They're humble. They're insightful and open-minded. And that's kind of an important one. I think as we get older, we're not as open-minded about change and new things as we should be. They have good inner strength, that they feel that they're in control of themselves. They're mindful of their health, that they know how to take care of themselves, and they do. And the last one is they're committed to practice this. And I guess this does take practice. Now that's a lot to think about. When I think of myself, I think perhaps over the years, not knowing a lot of these things or this new term of mindfulness, I think a lot of this I have managed to create within myself. So I think I might be there. And when you break that down, you think of your lifestyle, your health. Within the health realm, you're talking about your diet, your exercise, taking care of your medications, going to the doctor. That encompasses the health. And doing things for your joints. As we get older, things will happen. But if you still are trying and you think you can still live a life that you can be happy with, which we're calling a worthwhile life, then you can work on some of these things. Before this gets too complicated, let's talk about some of the 5 things that we think we can handle right now. Our lifestyle. Are you happy with the lifestyle that you're living? Are you social? Are you connecting with friends? Now, what has interfered with all this, of course, for the past 2 years is COVID. But we seem to be coming out of this. People are starting to get their lives back together. They're planning cruises and trips. They're getting together with family. Moose and I are at that point too. We have managed to get together with various families quite a bit lately. Saturday, we were over at our daughter Debbie's house, and we were requested to be there and help the kids with the painting. Now, we've done this before, and I was so excited to think that when Debbie was babysitting and when the parents who went away for a wedding for the weekend, so Debbie had 3 little kids, all under 7, I believe. And what they wanted to do at Grandma's house was to have Super Nanny and Moose come over, and they wanted to paint. Well, I did this a couple years ago with them, and they still remembered that. And I thought that was cute. That's what makes you feel good. That's what makes you feel relevant. We talk about that word a lot. People say, oh, nobody thinks about us anymore. We're not there. We're invisible. No, we're not. Believe me, we're not. And if you think you are, then do something about it to make yourself not so invisible if you think you are. So we did go over. We painted rocks and we sat outside and we had lunch with them and we had a great time. But that's a rabbit hole. So socializing is really important so far as your lifestyle goes, because you've got to connect with people to keep your cognitive and your physical body going. Another thing is your diet. And I've read so much about that. And I think we all know so much about that. We hear keto, we hear paleo, we hear every different kind of a diet. And some people say, eat the red meat. Some people say, don't eat it. And there's all kinds of things. You have to decide what is right for you so far as your diet. In one of the podcasts that I was listening to, this doctor, she has her PhD in food sciences, and she was so knowledgeable. She said if you ate the same 4 things every day, your diet would be fabulous. And I'm going to tell you what those 4 things are, and that kind of makes sense. One is wild Alaskan caught salmon. If you have a piece of salmon every day, that's good. The other thing is an avocado. Well, heck, I have an avocado almost every day, so I'm almost there. The other is blueberries. Well, Moosey has blueberries on his cereal every morning. Cereal's not so good, but the blueberries are great. And the other thing is something I love, Moosey hates, and that's kale. But she said kale is not so good tasting, which is why Moose won't eat it, if it's raw. I thought, well, you just put kale in salads, and that's the way I've eaten them. Some of it I do find bitter. Other kinds of kale I don't. But she suggested sauteing kale, and that might be, I'm going to do that. I can't believe that. But those are the 4 foods that she said if you ate every day in a meal, you'd be covered. Now, we don't eat too awfully much fish, I'm sad to say. Moose is not wild about fish. However, I have taken fish oil pills for the last 30 years. And the way I got involved in that was 30 years ago when I went to a brand new doctor. He suggested that I take 3 or 4 fish oil pills a day, which I did for many, many years. And recently I only take 2 a day. But maybe that, and one of these podcasts, they talked about supplements. If your diet doesn't include some of these things, perhaps the supplements will. It's always better to get it in the food, but supplements can help you. So that's something about diet that I learned. But find the right diet for you that gives you all the minerals and the benefits that you need to stay healthy and fight the diseases, that helps your immune system. Exercise. Now that word, some people don't want to hear it all. Exercise is drilled into us that we have to keep our body moving. And there's all kinds of exercises. The best one probably is aerobic, although I believe in stretching. I believe in flexibility. There's certain things I can do. I can put my hands flat on the floor, but yet I can't get myself up from a squatting position. So there's certain things I have to work on. But the aerobic exercises, they claim, are also what keeps the neurons going in your brain, and that will help. There's so many things that you can do in the way of exercise that will keep your immune system in better working order to ward off some of these diseases like Alzheimer's and other things. So do find some form of exercise that you can do regularly that will keep your body, your joints, and your brain working. That's kind of a no-brainer, a pun. What's the other thing? Of course, the visits to the doctors and the blood checkups and everything. All of that is so important. I think one of the reasons I'm on a little health kick right now is that I did have my blood work done a week ago and had the consultation with the doctor this week. And I was over the moon because he told me that my diabetes is under control, that I'm 6.6 on the scale, and 6.5 is borderline for regular people that they might have it. So with my medication and my diet, which isn't perfect, I try, certainly maybe having had diabetes for the last 20 years, type 2 I have, has made me more mindful of the sweets and the sugar and the candy. My diet by no means is perfect, and I have to say that. But I am more mindful about trying to, when I put something in my mouth, I say, well, maybe twice this week I'll have the pasta or something. But anyway, that has made me more interested in this longevity thing, that my diabetes is under control and maybe I can extend my life and live a good life and feel good as I'm living it. The next thing I wanted to talk about, besides your health and your exercise, your diet, and all those other things that you're doing, ooh, these are bad, I can't see, is your appearance. And that's so important, mainly to feel good about yourself. As you know, I'm a big person that will promote moisturizing. I love the moisturizing. You have to moisturize your skin. And I've done it all my life only because my skin is so dry that I have in fact, I have it right here. And my Nivea, as you know, I've used this for the past 40 years or more. And this has been my savior. I have to moisturize just to be comfortable. So maybe that has helped me with my skin. I have tried a few other things, which I'll try now and then, but I always go back to the Nivea. And of course, right before I put makeup on, I do use the castor oil, my black Jamaican castor oil under makeup. And to keep yourself looking good, makeup, learn. I never wore makeup before 2 years ago when I started my YouTube channel. I did do some eyes because my pale eyes would disappear if I didn't do something with it, but I never did foundation or the cover-ups and all of that. I have learned, though, that it makes a world of difference in your looks. So I'm still learning how to do it. Hair. I've lost hair over the years, but I've learned that dry shampoo does give you body and fluff it up. So there's things you can do with your body to look better, and that's important to make you feel better. Clothes. Now, I know a lot of you love this jacket, and I put it on especially today because it's youthful, and we're talking about extending our lives to the best we can. Not to try and be younger, just to be better older. So I just love to choose clothes that make me happy. And some of these clothes are the ones that you seem to like. And when I put a pair of overalls on, my gardening overalls, or a cute, youngish looking jacket, it makes me feel good. So choose your clothes and your jewelry. As you know, jewelry makes me happy. All these things to make yourself happy and to be proud of yourself, to look the best you can. They're important. Let's see, where else are we? Stress. That's a biggie. You have to learn to manage your stress. I worry, just like anyone else, but somehow I can control my stress and my worries. I do have a lot of it. You can imagine with a big family like we have, health issues and various other things with everyone, I'm worrying, but I control it and I don't let it overcome. I'm one that can somehow push things to the back of my mind and carry on. And I've learned to do that. And maybe that's back in those mindful principles. When I go back, the things that I do with my own life, maybe I can connect them with those 9 principles of mindfulness. So as it comes down to it, if you want to live a longer life, start with mindfulness, some of these principles, check yourself out. Am I happy? Am I stress-free? Do I practice generosity? Am I grateful for what I have? All of these things you have to start thinking about. And before you know it, you will feel as if you're in control of yourself. And then at the same time, you're working on your health, your diet, your exercise, your connections with friends, family. All of these things matter. Most of all, and I connect mindfulness with that word attitude. If you have a good outlook on life and you you want to achieve that goal of living as long as you can, feeling good, then try practicing some of these things we've talked about. I know it's complicated, and I know I probably have not gotten it all correct, but it's very complicated to talk about, and I'm trying to get it straightened in my own mind and at the same time convey it to you. Before I close on this topic, I want to tell you that in my mind, I connect all this with my spiritual life, which, as you know, is strong. I have a strong faith in God and a goal for eternal happiness one day. But before I reach that, I hope to live out the rest of my life in a worthwhile, purposeful way. And hopefully practicing some of what I've talked about might help. But there is one thing that I would like to close with, and it's a prayer. And I think it sums up everything that we're talking about. I really do know it by heart, but I want to make sure I don't mess it up. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Thank you all for being here. I love you all. God bless us all.